few vintage pieces to your space can give your home some soul and some character. But if you're new to vintage furniture shopping, it can be hard to know where to start. So Brian is back now. He's an expert. He's got some tips on what to look for and what to think about when you start shopping. So what do you need to have in your mind when you get started? Because it can get overwhelming, Brian.
It can get overwhelming, and you have to be focused. You know, you want to go on the web and look at interiors you like and see things that you like and start collecting them. And I have two addictions. One, as you know, one is white birthday cake from the supermarket, and the other one are antiques. So you could have worse addictions. This is what mine are. But let's start with small things. So I love candlesticks, and I collect candlesticks. So start with accessories. You don't have to buy antique furniture or vintage furniture. So some of these candlesticks these are Mexican from the 1930s. So I love these, and I like to mix them up with even English ones. This is what, I mean, before electricity, you would walk around and hold this, and it has the little handle on it right there, and you'd walk around, and that was your light. Also, old inkwells. I love old inkwells, and they make great paperweights. They look great sitting on boxes, and they also make great bud vases because you can put flowers in them. Isn't that cool? Mm-hmm. Now, another thing I love is I like to mix up new and old. So for dinnerware, a great thing to do is buy vintage dishes and vintage glassware. And look at all these beautiful glasses. These are all vintage. Some of them are pressed glass. This type of glass I typically find at flea markets. They're very inexpensive. You can buy them for a few dollars, let's say from $4 to $20. Beautiful. And what's nice is you could put different glasses at every place setting. People, when they're having wine, know which glass is there. There are some with beautiful etchings and things like that. So mix up your contemporary things like dinnerware or accessories with vintage pieces. So furniture, and I really like to mix up different periods. So you've probably seen this table a lot in my segments because I moved it into the hall. So this skirted table was by a designer named John Dickinson. It's from the 1970s, and it looks like a skirt, but it's made out of tin. So the whole thing is tin and has brass accents. So I love the whimsy of a skirted table made out of metal. And then mixing it up with a center table like this. So really mix things up. It all doesn't have to be one theme. It's just things you love. And in my dining room, I was looking for a pair of consoles. So what I did was I bought a square table and I cut it in half and created two consoles in the dining room on either side of the door. So, you know, I think there's a soulfulness when you put pieces that are unique in your house, and they could be from a couple of dollars to a couple of $1,000s. Now, if you don't live in an area where there are antique shops or flea markets, you can go online. There's lots of websites.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about online shopping, since that's what most of us are doing right now. If you are looking for vintage or antique, your advice to us is figure out which era you're looking for to narrow it down, right, Brian?
Absolutely. Or if you're collecting a theme, like if you're collecting candlesticks, maybe you'll say, I want silver, or I want glass from the 60s and 70s, or I want silver from any period, and mix them together. Because there's nothing more. People often say to me, you know, I have this dining room table, what do I put in the center of it? Well, why not mix a whole series of vintage candlesticks from different periods? But you can go online, there's lots of websites. You know, there's a famous one called First Dibs, and that has from the most modestly priced items to the most expensive, and you can narrow it down because you can put your budget. You can say $100 to $500 or whatever you want, and you can narrow it down to the item, the vintage. They have jewelry, they have clothes, they have furniture. There's one called In Collect, and Habitat for Humanity has the Habitat Restore, and that's online, and you can find furniture there, and all the money goes to a great cause. So there are great ways if you don't want to go out as now, or if you aren't in an area where there's a lot of places to go, there's a lot of options. But if you want to really create a special house and have things you love and that mean something to you and that your house is really about you, think about mixing it up with vintage items.
Yeah, the Restore is like a win-win-win situation because you're going to get some pieces that you would never find elsewhere. You're going to get them for a great price, and I love the fact that they help out. Here's what I'd like to ask you. When you were going into stores and you were doing the vintage and antique shopping, if you see glasses or plates, are you getting all of them? Because my concern is this isn't enough. There's 3 or there's only 11. Like, do you just get them all so that you know that you have that complete set? Because you're never going to be able to add to it.
You know, sometimes I will. Sometimes I will buy, because there's often you'll buy incomplete sets. So someone might have, it might have been a content sale that the dealer bought, and there might be 12 dinner plates, but only 7 salad plates and 3 bowls because they broke. I'd buy them anyway, because I'd mix them with other things. But sometimes I'll go to flea markets. You know, some of the flea markets are even at shopping centers. You know, at malls, they'll have a flea market on a weekend in the mall. In the old days, and hopefully that'll come back. And I might see one glass, and I'll just buy one. And I'll say, oh, I like that. It's a great design. It'll mix, you know, it'll be fine with this one. It's $6. I'm just going to buy it. If they have a few of them, I'll buy them all. But no, they don't have to match. It's the same with candlesticks. Sometimes I'll buy a single like this and a pair and just mix them up and have fun with them. But when it comes to dinnerware, yeah, buy incomplete sets and just mix them up.
Okay, I like that. So you can be a little bit free with what you're seeing out there. One last thing, if you are getting a lamp or a lighting fixture, you do have to think about the wiring, don't you? Do you suggest we get the wiring checked?
Always. So when I buy vintage lighting, unless it's been rewired before I bought it, I always send it off and have it rewired. I won't use any old wiring. You never know if it's frayed inside, how long it's been like that. So hanging fixtures or lamps, it's a worthwhile investment. Take them to a lighting store or someone that does that, or your electrician, and definitely rewire. Don't hang a fixture with old wiring.
Yeah, you got a great deal. Now, don't burn down your house. It's worth getting the wiring rechecked. Thank you, Brian.